And welcome back. And like we said, we'll be having a conversation with someone arguably who's been very vocal when it comes to the fallen Bill 10, as it's being called. That's if it has actually fallen. We'll find out from him according to what he calls it. His name is Isaac Mwanza. He's YALI governance illegal advisor. And we have him on the line. Isaac, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm all right. How are you doing? And good morning, all the dear listeners, wherever you are.
Interesting. And it's good to know that you're sounding alive and sounding very energetic this morning.
Indeed. I think that we are still in very, very high spirits.
Yeah.
I was just telling a colleague that, yes, we had a dark day yesterday over the Constitution.
Yeah.
But it was not a matter of life and death that people should think that others must cry, others must celebrate. This was a bill that was going to go either way. It was going to pass or fail. And we anticipated that kind of a passage, which happened yesterday.
And, the reason why most people probably feel that you are not very okay as YALI because of so much, you've put in so much to ensure that you campaign for the bill, the billboards and all the other form of campaigns that you've put in. How does it make you feel since seeing that you had just put in so much?
So, just to be very clear, from the time that YALI was founded in 2011, part of our first mandate was to look at the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. And we had been very, very active around issues to do with the Constitution. We played a very active role in 2015, 2016, in trying to ensure that we have the Constitution that we have currently, which provides for 50+1, provides for the running mate. Those gains, we contributed to them. Again, we wanted to contribute to ensure that we have some more gains in this bill by having our women, our youth, persons with disabilities in Parliament, to ensure that we can remove some of the lacunas that were left in the current act. So yes, we have spent considerably a lot in terms of our advocates, but that's what money is for. You do advocacy because you want to believe in a thing, you want to persuade people to believe in it, and you lose some and win some. At the end of the day, it's the Zambian people that must realize what has been lost and what has been gained. And the results are going to begin to show probably within the next 3 months. We should be able to begin to see the results of the failure of this bill in Parliament and what it actually means in terms of the political landscape in 2021.
All right. Before we get there, just in about maybe 1 or maybe 2 minutes, I'll give you 2 minutes. Just give us a bit of the background, just in case people have forgotten where all this Bill 10 came from and where we are standing currently. So
Bill 10 came from 2016, after the 2016 presidential petition where Mr. Kainde lost, and then we had a lot of problems with the Constitution. We had the issue of the 14 days, which was not very clear, and they cried as the opposition and said, look, the 14 days is not enough to hear a presidential petition for the whole country. We also had the question of the former ministers that stayed in office until almost closer to an election, only to learn that the Constitution had an ambiguity in it. And we had so many questions that were being asked to the court, and the court was constantly amending the Constitution from the bar. Now, that is how Bill 10, the issue to amend the Constitution was groomed. It was discussed at Mulungushi by all the stakeholders, most of the political parties, civil society. Later on, there was a Siavonga meeting of secretary generals. All the political parties participated and agreed on the way forward, but they disagreed as to who was going to chair. That gave rise to the National Dialogue Forum. The National Dialogue Forum itself produced what is now called Bill 10, what has now fallen in Parliament to ensure that we can have a constitution that removes the ambiguity. As you know, we cannot constantly be amending the Constitution from the bench, from the courts. But it appears that is the direction that we must now take going forward.
All
So
right.
that is the brief history of Bill 10.
And so, what does that mean now that it has fallen? Because we are just months away from elections, and I'm sure from your explanation, I can get some of the few issues that you've raised, citing examples of the UPND about the 14 days and the issues of. I think I also heard some quarters saying that the issues of Public Order Act as well might come up, and many other issues. So what does that mean now that it has fallen? Does that mean that we might have some few negative vibes coming again?
So the meaning, the implication of the failure of this bill is that, one, those that are going to lose the 2021 elections will only have 14 days to present their petition. And part of those 14 days, they might only have an hour or so to get their witnesses and everything, their evidence, to be presented to the court, because the system that we run is an adversarial system which allows both parties to file submissions, to raise preliminary issues, applications, and all that. You cannot stop that court process. So they must be prepared as political players to go into 2021 expecting that whoever is going to lose an election, they must face the 14 days again in court. For the women, those who are celebrating, for instance, women who are celebrating, what are they celebrating about in terms of the failure of Bill 10? For instance, UPND women, if I may address them, this is a bill that was going to give them a chance to ensure that they can participate in an electoral system, not by appointment where the president appoints you to get into office, where you are at the favor, at the mercy of the presidential appointments, but the electoral system was going to provide for them to get into parliament. All the women of this country, they have lost that opportunity. The same with the youth, the same with persons living with disabilities. We have also lost the chance to clarify some of the ambiguous provisions in the Constitution. That is the implication that we have. So those that are celebrating, they must understand they will remain dancing for those members of parliament who failed the bill. They will continue being dancers. When these members of parliament go to the constituencies to campaign, the women, the youths, persons with disabilities will be used as the tools to dance for the male folks who are going to campaign. It has reduced them to not being active political players, which the bill wanted to do. So it is a decision that they have made as members of parliament. And the public, no matter how you look at it, it's the women that have lost, it's the men, the youth that have lost, the persons with disabilities. What about the church? What about the political players? How are they going to resolve the conflict next year if the 14 days will not be enough? Because there won't be an extension. We already have a firm decisions of the court that 14 days is 14 days. So these are the issues that we must face in 2021.
All right.
That is the implication of this failure of the bill.
And is there hope that the bill can be sent back into Parliament? Is it the 6 months, or what happens? Is there hope for those that are championing Bill 10 to bring it back?
You see, it's too late to now think about getting back the bill into Parliament. Technically, you are supposed to take this bill. If you want to take it back, you can take it back after 6 months has elapsed. You can take the same bill. But if you wanted to take a new bill, there's no law that stops anybody from crafting another bill and taking it to Parliament. But they have to follow the same procedures as the way Bill 10 passed. There must be consultations with the people. There must be input that the people should have participated in it. Those national values we are talking about, they will still come into play. So there must be participation of the people. They must own it, and it must be published in a gazette for 30 days. After 30 days, it matures. So we don't have time. Literally, we don't have time because Parliament is adjourning in December. And if anybody wanted to introduce a bill, 30 days from now, we'll take into December. When we're about to adjourn, when are you going to come up with subsidiary legislation? Even if you said we can have it in the next session of Parliament, the next session of Parliament in February, only 6 weeks. So you do not have enough time to debate the constitution and come up with other laws that will support the amendments. So what is the way forward? The way forward now is that we must shelve the issue of constitutional amendment aside. The same way that we had put the referendum, when the referendum failed, the president was very clear. Let us not continue to spend on a referendum. Let us put it aside. So the issue of the constitutional amendments, we must put it aside, probably for the next 20 to 30 years, so that we focus on writing our economy now, on doing other things. You have already spent enough. How do we deal with the ambiguities then, which are in the Constitution? What you are going to see, comrade, and the dear listeners, is that there will be more litigation in court. There will be more petitions in court to ensure that the Constitutional Court can clarify the ambiguities which are in the Constitution. So we have literally left this Constitution, the cleaning up of this Constitution, to the 7 to 11 special Zambians who are the judges of the Constitutional Court. So we are going to be having these petitions going ahead. Of course, I will be one of those that will be filing a number of petitions to ensure that we can clarify certain provisions even before the elections come, around Article 52, around Article 56, around the issues of a public officer, state officer. All those issues must be clarified now because we are failed. Parliamentarians have failed themselves. We now have to appeal to the conscience of the 7 judges of the Constitutional Court to amend the Constitution from the bench because they have the power to amend, so to speak, from the bench. They are going to litigate, they are going to make the law from the bench. That is the only option we have now. In terms of getting back to say, let's have the church, civil society, and all that, it will be a waste of time, it will be a waste of money, a waste of effort. I think that we must move on as a country. And this issue of the Constitution, let us put it behind.
And Isaac, don't you think that the approach of pushing everything to the courts might disadvantage the Zambians because we all want to participate? Don't you think so?
No, that is the only option. The Zambians had an opportunity to make the Constitution for themselves through their members of parliament. But once the members of parliament have said, no, we are not going to vote. And what should be very clear here, comrades, is that Zambians who are listening out there, it is not that the UPND MPs voted against a bill, or those remaining independents voted against a bill. No, they were very tactical. They decided not to vote against a bill. Even the Honorable Jack Mwimbo, who was in Parliament, I wish to commend him for having been in Parliament, but he did not vote against a bill. What they did was to show the Zambians that, no, we are not supporting the bill by staying away. So they did not vote against the bill. They actually just stayed away so that when they go back to the electorate to be asked to say, why did the bill not pass for the women and all other issues, they'll simply say we stayed away. So nobody voted against it. There are only 105 people that voted in favor of the provisions of the bill, and others just abstained. That is how that bill collapsed. So the Zambians have lost their opportunity. And the cause of the people or the cause of all this are their members of parliament whom they elected. These members of parliament, most of them are male. They want these Zambians, like the youth, the women, who should have had the provision of getting into parliament, to be dancing for them when they go and fight in their nominations. They have already won a ticket just by staying away from parliament. They have already won a ticket of adoption. And it will be the women, it will be the youth, it will be those who are disabled who are going to be dancing for these members of parliament who denied them an opportunity to have a say in parliamentary business, to air their grievances in parliament through the electoral system and not appointments. That is where the problem is here. So Zambians must be very clear about it. When you see your members of parliament come back, you must understand they end the adoption by ensuring that they shoot down the provisions that should have given you a chance to be in parliament. And this is our message that we are going to take to every other Zambians.
All right,
like I said, we expected it to go either way. It was either going to fail or to pass. But passing was going to be the best especially if the contentious issues had been clarified.
And Isaac, as I let you go, so just to make it clear, so all the majority of the people, including some of the opposition political parties, felt that the content was okay. They were just not comfortable with the way, the procedure, everything, the way Bill 10 came about. But the content itself, most of them were comfortable, weren't they?
So there were a few contentious issues in the Constitution. The issue of deputy ministers and all that, those things were resolved, almost resolved. And the duty of Parliament is to resolve those issues and agree to say this is the way we are going to go. So I would agree with you when you say the content was not so much of a problem. People reduced it to a process of coming up with that. Now, who is mandated to make the laws in this country? It's parliamentarians. It is not the church, for heaven's sake. People are being told, no, because the church did not share the dialogue, that is why we are shooting down the bill. No, the church has its own role in our society, is to spiritually guide the nation. The politicians are elected to go and make laws in parliament. Now, if the politicians have failed to make the laws and they even stay away, even when they're in parliament, they just say, no, I'm not going to vote against it because I'll be held accountable for voting against it, it means that we have a problem. It means that we are going to parliament, we are spending a lot of money on our members of parliament who are going to be debating bills that are very trivial, bills that don't mean anything to many Zambians, as it would have meant with the Constitution if it had provided for women. The women movement themselves, I'll tell you without doubt that they failed themselves. And we would not expect that the women movement, come 2021, they should be crying that, no, there are less women who have been adopted by the political parties. It is themselves who campaigned the whole bill. They did not look at the bigger picture. They did not ask their members of parliament to say, can we reach a consensus and ensure that we have these provisions that support women, that support youth, that support the disabled. That is what was expected of them. So we don't expect anybody to cry foul at it. When the petition will be tabled in court, whoever is going to lose, we must never cry foul. When anybody is candidature, whether it's HH, whether it's Edgar Lungu, whether it is Shimba Kambwiri, is challenged at the nomination, and we spend so much time during the nomination getting to court. They must understand that this is what they've asked for. So let them prepare for such an eventuality. That is all we can say. For those women who want to celebrate for the youth, we say it is your democratic right to celebrate. But remember, something has been taken away from you, which you should have enjoyed. Just one piece of legislation would have been enough for women to celebrate, for the youth to celebrate, and for persons with disabilities to celebrate.
And so finally, as we get to 2021, what YALI is saying is that there might be certain things that might be challenging as far as some constitutional issues. Political parties should not complain. Whatever happens, they should complain because...
You asked me about the public order bill.
Yeah.
This bill has to be withdrawn from Parliament. You have asked me about the electoral process bill. This bill has to be withdrawn from Parliament. If you remember the reason why it was shelved, it was because the leader of government, the leader of the opposition, Jack Mwimbu, had said, why are we discussing this subsidiary legislation before discussing the main bill? You understand, eh?
Yeah.
So, because of that, we have failed the Constitution. Why do you want to have a new Public Order Act? So we can do without it. For now, the political parties must prepare to go to an election with the current Public Order Act, with the current Electoral Act. This is the Electoral Act where even if there is violence in an election, where you see that people have killed each other in an election, as long as the candidate is not involved in the killing or the agent, an election cannot be nullified as having been not free and fair. It is an act that is promoting violence because there is no court that can nullify an election even when violence has been seen. We saw it in Munali, we saw it in Sesheke, we saw it in Kaoma. So the court cannot nullify an election even when there is violence because of the current electoral Process Act. But we have to live with it until 2021. So what are you talking about when we talk about violence? Are you going to be addressing violence when you have such a piece of legislation? Are you going to be complaining when we have the Public Order Act of 1956 still in place? But these are the realities that will dawn. So in the next few months, probably 3 to 4 months, people will begin to feel the effect of it, to say, oh, well, we could have had this change. What are they going to be crying about? Why should people cry about the Public Order Act now? Why should people cry? Why should women cry about their rights to participate in politics? Why should the youth cry to say that we must participate in politics if you are celebrating that your right has been curtailed? Those are the self-reflecting questions that every other citizen is supposed to be asking themselves. And all we can say as YALI is that we are going to do our part between now and 2021. We are going to be approaching the courts to ensure that some of these issues we can begin to clarify the constitution from the bench. We are going to have 7 special Zambians who are the judges of the Constitutional Court, who are going to be now, so to speak, amending the constitution. When we take a matter to court, we ensure that we argue it in such a manner that the court gives the meaning to what is there. And whether people like it or not, they will have to live with it, because that is the highest court of the land. The parliamentarians, they have failed. So the judiciary would have to do the part.
Isaac, thank you so very much for talking to us. We are so humbled that you found time to be with us.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely day.